Hello and welcome tonight to the Conversations Unfiltered. My name is Liz Walker and this is Jenny Hoey. Tonight we're going to take a little bit longer to unpack what we're talking about. If you're on my newsletter list today for Youth Wellbeing Project, you would have received an email about an incident that's happened online this week. And it's quite confronting. So what we're talking about tonight is going to be confronting. I can see that we don't have any viewers on yet, but we're just going to keep on rolling with it and, really deep dive into this topic of all the confronting things that young people can see. This week, in actual fact, it went live last week. There was an incident online where a gentleman in the US, he live streamed his own suicide. It's very confronting. If you haven't heard about it, it's something that you need to know about. We're not going to describe the context of it tonight. I would really love to be honest, because I think that sometimes we shy away from those tough topics and don't want to know the confronting details. And this just isn't doing our kids any favors, because social media is talking to our kids. Our kids are seeing it. So if you haven't heard about it, I encourage you to go and check our Facebook wall, because we have posted newspaper articles about this live stream event. We have posted content explaining the e-safety recommendations, and that was in our newsletter out today. But there exists a certain amount of resilience that we as adults and parents need to have in order to confront these very real topics that our young people are facing. Jenny, you said something absolutely bold before. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, my feeling is if we are going to hand our children something as powerful as a smartphone or an iPad or access to the internet, we need to man up and be ready to talk about everything.
Yeah. And we mean everything, because everything is available to our kids at the click of a button. And I mean, obviously, our Youth Wellbeing Project specialty is talking about the impacts of pornography. But I find it ironic that some people just I don't want to hear about it. I don't even want to say the word porn. It's too disgusting. It's like, well, your 8-year-old could be watching it. So at what point are we going to talk about that? Now, tonight as part of our live, I just want to play just a brief clip of a guy by the name of, he goes by the name Rev. He's a long-term friend, and he's from an organization, Motivate, and he did a live update on this today, and he just provided some good context that we want to just play a short amount and then dive in and unpack a lot more after that. So let's just go live with Rev and see what he has to say. Let me just share my screen here.
So mental health, you'll hear me talk about the fact that anxiety, stress, and depression are very closely linked to each other. Anxiety, those overwhelming thoughts that whisk up into like this mental, emotional cyclone in our head, and they become too much for us to cope with. We have too many questions in our head to answer, and they become overwhelming. Stress that feels like this pressure that is pushing down on us. It's this strain, this load that is on us. And depression, well, that can take a million different forms, but we often talk about this cloud that hangs over us and this sense of hopelessness. When boys answer this question in my events, they talk to me about a sense of hopelessness.
So we're just going to stop there. John, in his the rest of that live, and I'll drop the link in there in a minute, but in our chat in a minute, In the rest of his conversation, he talks about stress, anxiety, and depression being like neighbours, and suicide in the next suburb. And so we're not really going to dive into the topic of suicide tonight. It's a very sensitive topic, and really our specialty is in these other complex topics that can potentially lead to that. But Jenny, we want to pick up on that around anxiety, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because it is absolutely essential to have some anxiety. And I almost wish that the condition, the anxiety disorder, was almost a different name, because some of these words get so flung together that people feel that anxiety is bad all around, and it is not. It absolutely isn't. We wouldn't be able to survive without it. It's the one thing that provides us with that early warning signal, the very thing we teach our children to be aware of if they are in a situation that they don't feel safe in. So, yeah, that's crucial.
And I think I missed playing the real bit that I wanted to play of John's, but a certain amount of anxiety is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as teens are growing and developing, that anxiety, they can misread that. They can misinterpret that anxiety. So that anxiety, that's actually a protective factor to say, hang on, I shouldn't be looking at something, or hang on, I shouldn't be doing something. Often because of their peer environments, they push into that and go, well, I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to go there, even though they're early. And for children, we talk about it as early warning signs. These are the early warning signs. And so that's why it's really important that we start having really solid conversations with our kids when they're very little about their early warning signs, and recognizing those feelings and helping them interpret those feelings. Because when those feelings get overwhelming, then it can spin us into that loop-to-loop mental health cycle.
And I think we're seeing a lot of that today. I know, I'm not sure if I'd mentioned previously to everyone that I've been managing my husband's psychiatric practice for about 11 years, and that the rate of referrals, the age has dropped and the rate has increased. At the moment, we're probably only getting referrals for teenagers. And I think part of that, and I may be wrong, it's just my own opinion, is that they spend so much time, they do spend a lot of time watching content that we would not be comfortable watching. And they're living in this kind of low-grade state of anxiety, which does compound things and build up. And so other stresses come up, and then the mental health seriously does go into a more severe, what's the word? Clinical definition, if you want. And so I do believe, and you're absolutely right, that if we were able to teach children from a very young age, and I loved what Justin Coulson said last night in his live about be curious and ask them how they're feeling, because the more words they can have to label their feelings, I think the better equipped they'll be at going into their teen years to say, hang on, I'm backtracking, I don't want to look at this.
Yeah. And that's why we really need to make sure that we prepare them in advance. I mean, I didn't go searching for the video, and they've pulled it off every social media platform. Unfortunately, what's happening with this video of this live suicide is that people have downloaded it and then keep on uploading it to platforms. And I mean, the eSafety Commissioner has been really strong in her response in saying that, social media platforms really need to step up and implement safety by design like they're calling for, so that those videos, platforms are ready to hash those videos, hashtag those, is that what the hashing technology, so that they can recognize those videos as soon as they're uploaded again and get them off as quickly as possible. But I went onto Twitter to see what people were saying about this event on Twitter. And what hugely concerned me was this 10-year-old's reaction. Now, let me just put it up for you. He said, I know I shouldn't be on Twitter. I'm only 10. I only have Twitter to send fan art to my fave YouTubers, but I just saw the video and I'm scared. I can't stop crying. What's something I can do to calm down? That's That's heartbreaking. You know, when kids of the age of 10, when we know the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation says that kids in primary school absolutely must be supervised online, and a kid of 10 is on Twitter and he sees something that is rocking to the core the most grounded adults, that they will never be able to unsee that suicide. We have to be brave enough to know what is going on for our kids online.
Yeah. Well, some of the one of the things I saw, what I was made aware of was that this particular video had been embedded in I think it was a Roblox video on YouTube, and I noticed that, and it really alarmed me, because when I recently, there are two reports I've recently read. One was the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation's report from February, where they actually state that children between 8 and 11, 40% of those are unsupervised online. Then I had a look at the Common Sense Media report from last year, and I'm actually going to read it, but they state that the average hours that a tween between the age of 8 and 12 spend online is 4 hours and 45 minutes. And by far, the most popular thing for kids to do online, tweens and teens, is to watch videos. Tweens, their favorite platform, YouTube, despite the fact that it's a 13+ platform.
Wow.
Now that leaves one beyond concerned.
Yeah.
Because you can see that how this video was embedded in a Roblox video on YouTube, and I'm not a fan of Roblox, but I accept that many children do play it. How are we as parents supposed to monitor all this video viewing? It's impossible.
Yeah. And we have to understand that the online community is not age gated. And so not only do we have very disturbed adults who think that it's okay to embed these sorts of videos into our kids' videos. I mean, that's horrific to me. Absolutely horrific. So I'm hope to goodness that these technology companies can pick up that through Hash technology, those videos that are embedded within videos. That's the level that we need to go to in order to be able to pull this content down so quickly. But also, Dr. Justin Coulson spoke about that young people themselves are using this video as social capital amongst their peers. It's something, you know, it's typical that young people are curious and they want to watch it and they want to find it and they want to share it. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about porn or whether we're talking about a graphic suicide video. But unfortunately, our kids are curious. And some of our kids, due to porn culture, due to the overload of information that they are unable to process, that they are unable to effectively navigate through, some of these kids lose their empathy. And some of these kids are sharing it. I mean, we've had reports of schools. Tell us what you've been told about what's happening in classrooms around this suicide video.
Airdropping them to each other. I know that I contacted my daughter yesterday and said, please, this is what's happened. And she said, I'm not going to go online. But unfortunately, a group of boys in my class have described it graphically to each other. Now, when she started explaining to me what they said, and I will not repeat it, I had to stop her after one sentence because I didn't want, and I could not actually hear it. And I said, just tell me how you're feeling. How are you feeling when you hear that? Yeah. Because the point of not, I'm not of the opinion that we should not have discussed this with our child for the fear of them going on to search for it. Because social media is talking about it. Snapchat, the kids are about it. I went to fetch my son today from after school care, and one of the educators there came up to me and said he was really concerned because there'd been a group of girls in year 5, 6 talking about it. So we mustn't pretend that this isn't happening in their social circle. And the very best thing we can do is talk to our children so that they feel they can talk to us. And I think that Justin was so right last night when he said, be curious and start with asking them how they feel. Because if we can open that level of conversation with them, and even if they haven't seen it, they've definitely heard about it by now.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and it's unavoidable because on every social media platform, you know, from the second that kids have access to devices, we are opening them up to a world that is well beyond their age and comprehension to understand. And I mean, that's why we are huge advocates to wait as long as possible. Like, an 8-year-old does not need a smart device. They do not need to be on TikTok. They do not need that level of online socialization where we just have no idea of what they're seeing and who they're talking to. And I mean, we can give kids all the tips and tools and strategies that we like, but the bottom line is they're kids. And we know that developmentally, their brains are still forming. We know that they don't fully develop their prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for all their decision making. And to be able to manage those emotions with forethought and insight, that doesn't come till much, much later. So if we're giving a kid who has limited ability to understand how to switch off, I mean, I know for adults, it's really hard to put this down sometime. It's really hard. And we're adults. And then we give our kids this powerful device, kids as young as 7, 8 years old with smartphones. Like, that's not smart. We need to be going back to, if you need to keep in touch with your kids, get them a dumb phone.
Absolutely agree with you. And my concern this evening, picking up my son, was he has no access to anything. But regardless, at 6, nearly 7 years old, if he'd overheard those girls talking, that would have alarmed him, frightened him, and his own little imagination would have gone crazy. And as a parent, I think I have the right to protect him and just to say that's not what I want him exposed to. He didn't hear anything, fortunately, but I can't be certain that for the next few days at primary school he won't. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. I think it's hard for parents because of that word inappropriate that's thrown around all the time. I do feel for them because I think for many parents, they may not actually realize what all the different categories that fall into that word. And so, you know, I believe in spelling it out and saying, certainly from what my teens have told me, you know, real life violence, it's pretty commonplace. This is particularly distressing, but they are used to seeing a lot of real life violence. I've seen some of it myself, which I found disturbing, and I'm an adult.
Yeah.
We need to protect their little brains and their little minds.
Yeah. So for the little ones, we need to protect them for as long as possible from being exposed to this content that can literally reshape your worldview at a very young age. When they're older, we have to be checking in with them. You know, I really encourage you to listen to Dr. Justin Coulson's update on it. It was really good.
Yeah,
but we need to be checking in with how they're going with their emotions. How are they feeling about this? We need to be making sure that they're not part of the problem, that they're not sharing it or forcing their friends to watch it as some sort of joke. And if they are processing that as a joke, what's going on underneath that? Because obviously there's a lack of empathy there. There's a lack of ability to see someone as fully human. And we know that, you know, this topic isn't alone tonight about pornography because lots of things desensitize our children, but pornography in particular is very good at dehumanizing people to an object. And so when they're overwhelmed so much with all this information online, it can dampen their ability or their capacity to see other people as human. It can form, you know, some of the comments that have been coming through, very judgmental of this guy. We don't know his circumstances. We don't know what
That's
sort of pain he was going through. We certainly don't know what pain his family and his friends, because he actually live streamed it to his family and his friends initially. And unfortunately, one of those 200 people that saw it first did the wrong thing and it stayed up and it got shared. I mean, that's devastating. But it'd be really hard for family and friends to be watching their loved one who they really cared for go through this. And we don't know the circumstances, so we can't get judgy about it. So we need to teach our kids to lean into that empathy and help them understand those feelings, help them understand more context around it.
Yeah, and I find it, particularly, I mean, what's alarmed me the most in the last 24 hours is, one, the fact that there's like predatory behavior out there. In fact, there are people trying to lure children through little cat videos or puppy videos or even the Roblox videos to see it, which is very, very concerning. But also the word suicide is thrown around so much. And unfortunately, in our family, my son of 18 recently lost a friend. And when that happened, it dawned on him what it meant. And it was, he suffered. And, we suffered with him and supported him. And so I think that for kids, some of these words are thrown around. But when something happens not too far from home, things really do fall apart. And therefore, I think you're right. I think we need to just tap into the empathy, how they're feeling, and also, tap into the fact that this was another human life and that we need to, I guess, afford that family their privacy and just stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Really. Walk away.
We'll stop talking about that particular circumstance.
Right. Yeah,
but we
precisely.
absolutely
Let's not
need
make
to-
it so sensationalistic. The kids are really like hyping it up. There are memes going around it. It's very disturbing. You're right. The subject isn't one that needs to be closed. It has to stay wide open.
Because this is happening, and Are You OK Day is tomorrow, which is a really good reminder that we need to be checking in with our loved ones. We need to be making sure that they are okay. And when they're showing signs of reaching out and asking for help, journey along with them, no matter what, even when they make decisions that makes that, is not making it better. Love them anyway. Love them unconditionally. Check in with them, make sure they're okay. Reach out and get support. If you don't have someone that you can talk to, make sure that you're checking in with somebody that you can, getting professional support. There's lots of links on the eSafety Commissioner site of places that you can go. I will share that link in a minute, but I just really encourage you to not shy away from the tough topics. At the moment our kids have devices, they are confronted with a whole range of things. And this incident, it happened during Child Protection Week. The very week that we came online, we had something else planned for tonight. But obviously this is so vitally important to cover. It's child protection. And there are kids. And we're giving them one of the most powerful devices in the world before they have the emotional and cognitive capacity to deal with a whole range of things. Now, that doesn't mean to say they can't recover from this. That doesn't mean to say that it's all doom and gloom. We want to build a resilience. And, there's a very good researcher in the UK, Kath Nibbs, and she talks about the micro traumas that we can experience online. And so traumas are everywhere. And we need to face those things head on. As adults, it can be difficult, but then we're expecting our kids to see this stuff and bounce through. And that's why some of them tend to dissociate from those tougher topics and then go to that, it's too uncomfortable, I'm just going to laugh about it and think that it's a joke because I've lost that capacity to really empathize and really feel for that person's pain because it's confronting. So, have these conversations, build resilience. Don't expect that your kids aren't going to see things. Don't shy away from the tough topics. This is a particularly tough topic, suicide, but also this event is indicative of what is rife online. This is just one incident. It's gone viral. It's gone around the world. It's impacting classrooms around the world. social media platforms around the world, Snapchat, TikTok, wherever they're online, Instagram, they're talking about it. If you're not talking about it, other young people are, and that's not giving us the capacity to really get alongside young people and build those really connected relationships so that they can come to us at any time about anything. They're not in trouble if they've seen it, but by gosh, they need us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. And I've listened to recently to quite a few from various sources, teenagers speak themselves. Recently, I listened to a podcast. It was a Colin Karchner podcast where he interviewed a group of teens, and they actually talk about the disconnect. They say social media, the assumption is that we connect, but we're actually disconnect. It's a screen at the end of the day. And we're able to, I loved the one teenager's description of it. And he said, we're able to just pop up the top 10 of our life, or, top 10 photos and, sell that. And on the contrast to that is the very dark side, the very, very dark side.
Yeah.
I, for one, am a 16+ person as far as social media is concerned. And the Common Sense Media does agree with me on a number of the platforms. So it is worth looking at their ratings.
Yeah, because we'll pick up on ratings again in another episode, but really 13 is the typical rating for a lot of these apps, but what they see is well beyond the capacity of a 13-year-old to process, and essentially that age 13 isn't the recommendations of psychologists, counsellors, psychiatrists. It is actually to do with data collection.
That's right, yeah.
So it's got nothing to do with the safety of and appropriateness of a young person to manage what they're likely to see. So this is an opportunity for us to take stock. This is an opportunity for us to take a really hard look at. This is a one-off incident, but it's happening all the time. They're seeing content all the time, and it's drastically impacting themselves and their peer groups. So we need to take stock of that, and we need to say, what are we doing to our kids? This is Child Protection Week. I encourage you to go check out the previous Facebook Live earlier, which was a lot more bubbly, not so deep, intense. But we really felt we had to go here tonight because this is too important a conversation. So if you are struggling with what you've seen, if you have seen the video, please report it to the social media channel, and also if you're in Australia, you can report it to the eSafety Commissioner. We need to get it pulled down ASAP if it's still out there. If you're feeling vulnerable, if you're feeling like you need to talk to somebody, please reach out. In Australia, Kids Helpline is a fantastic resource. We will post a list of other places that are based in Australia, but please do reach out to your helpline in your local region or country. Next week, we'll be back on, and hopefully we can not have such a somber feel to this topic, but we really wanted to give it the extra length of time that it deserved. We love you all. We hope that you're doing well in this extenuating time, and thank you for tuning in. We would love your feedback, your comments. Please share this if you've gained something from it, and we will be back again.
I just want to end